I'm very creative, and I can't seem to stick to one thing. So I want to draw, I want to be a wedding planner, I want to play an instrument, I want to curate a strategy for something. There were times when what I was struggling with was the withdrawal. I was trying to be sober, and it was misunderstood because I was jittery and I was all over the place.
I feel like a lot of addicts also are scared of going to rehab.
That is such a common one because of the shame attached to it. The shame attached to addiction and the shame attached to getting help for it. It's so sad. The pursuit of happiness. You know that movie that came out so long ago with Will
Yes.
Smith, but that actual phrase, the pursuit of happiness, is what's making society sad.
Eh.
Alcohol has a lot of calories.
Yeah.
A lot. So
Yes.
when you're consuming it in
It's
those amounts,
fattening.
you're going to put on weight.
Yeah. Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me on Crystal One-on-One for these amazing conversations. We are on location at my home away from home, which you know, Sheraton Kampala Hotel. Now, if you're looking for the very best seafood and sushi night every last Thursday of the month, this is where you need to be. Oh, and every Wednesday they have a sizzler night as well. I'll tell you more about that, okay? But today I am hosting someone who is talking about something profound, something that many families are affected by. She is a recovering alcoholic and she has opened up, and I'm so excited to hear these conversations on her YouTube channel. She'll tell you about that. But also, she is the co-founder of Komuka Daycare and Preschool. I have Isabella Kankunda Sabune joining me today.
Hi, Crystal.
Hi, although I feel weird saying Isabella. Easy!
Yeah, I'm like, Isabella, that's so long. Yeah, it sounds weird
I
even
know.
to me.
Oh, like, yeah, that's me, right?
Yeah, that's me. Thanks. Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh,
Like,
well, it's nice to have
I
you on
like your
Crystal
show.
One-on-One.
Yes, I love
How
your
are
show.
you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm
Mhm.
doing amazing. I'm living life in 3D.
In three? Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting that when I'm asking you now how you're doing, it's a very genuine I'm doing well?
Yes, it is.
Because
Yeah.
I know that your energy has always been like
Yeah.
so always when I meet you in the past,
Yeah.
I've known her for a long, long time. You'd always be bubbly and like, yeah, I'm doing good, I'm
Yeah.
good. But you've had quite a few challenges.
Yeah, I have.
That you have faced recently.
Yeah. And for a long time, but I was always really good at masking. I was really, really good at being happy. I was that person who I felt like if I could just make everybody else around me happy, comfortable, peaceful, then it's okay that I'm not okay. As long as everybody else is happy, it doesn't matter what's going on with me.
Yeah.
So I just felt like I felt like that's what I needed to do, and that's how I put myself out into the world. But I was constantly masking.
Yes.
But now when I say that, and I always take time to think about how I'm doing when someone asks me that question now, because it's not always good. Today I'm good. I'm living life in 3D today. I woke up happy and excited and energetic because I was coming here. But there are days when someone asks me and I'm like, you know what? I'm having kind of a gray day. I'm having kind of it's a bad day.
I tell
I'm
you
sad.
what, that's not easy to say.
Yeah.
I can honestly say I'm always like automatic response. I'm great. Then I have a moment. I'm like, wait, am I? Am I really?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And I've started asking people how they're doing as well. Some of my friends now, I ask them, how are you? And then they say, I'm good. And I say, no, that's not an answer. How are you really? So if you're good, are you good? Like, tell me you're good and tell me a little bit, like, just add one thing about I'm good because when you just say I'm good, sometimes it's just a reaction, like you said, you're just used to saying that. And sometimes that's not how you are.
I think some people don't even take the time to even ask themselves that question.
Yeah.
Like, am I really good?
Exactly. So, yeah.
So Izzy, you, for at least some of the work interactions we've had in the past, you were working in tourism in that space, but that's not what you went to school for.
No, never. I did. So I've spent 10 years in the tourism industry,
Yes.
here and in Rwanda,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't go to school for that.
Okay.
I went to school for, um, so people like to say I'm overly educated. Was I trying to be a professor? I really wasn't. I think I just felt like,
You enjoy school?
no, I don't even know why I'm overly. I don't know why I've done school this much. It's so weird. So I did.
Expectations from parents,
So the
maybe?
first one, yes, it was the natural progression of life. And even the master's, I guess, was as well. But I did, my first degree was in Bachelor of Business in Human Resource Management.
Okay.
And my master's, my first one, was a Master of Arts in International Relations and
Your first one.
Security. That's my first one.
How did we end up there?
Exactly.
That should be the question, right?
So I don't know why I always wanted to do international relations. And I couldn't do it at uni for my first degree because my mom said, what is international relations? You want to be in diplomacy, or what are you trying to do? And I was like, I don't have a good answer to that question, but that's what I want to do. And she's like, no. So I went and did business because I didn't want to do the other things that, parents give you on the table, like a silver platter pick.
Law.
Law, medicine, engineering, and business. And I was like, business, the other sound. Mm-mm. So masters I got to pick, and that's what I did. Now I say first one because since I came out of rehab, which I'm sure we'll talk about, and who I found, the Isabella I found in rehab, and what I went through that process of discovering, of learning, of unlearning, I just felt so convicted to come and do something to help people. I'd always been interested in psychology. I did it as an elective in high school, of all things, but I never thought I could make it a career, right? But I came out of rehab and I decided that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a psychologist. I wanted to be a therapist. And so right now I'm doing a Master of Science in Psychology.
Okay.
I'm about halfway through. And then I'm going to specialize in the addiction and recovery space. That's what I want to do. That's what I feel is my calling and
your
purpose.
Calling right now.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've gone to uni. I guess some people will be like, okay, but where were you born and where did you go to school? Like primary and secondary.
Yeah. So I'm like a global citizen. Do we remember the United Colors of Benetton? I feel like that's who I am in a person. So I was born in Kenya, and then grew up. I guess I grew up predominantly here still, but I only went to school here until I was 11.
Okay.
Then I went back to Kenya to boarding school, and then been very blessed, very privileged, had a great education. I praise God and I thank my parents endlessly. I then went to I went to the UK for my high school. I was in international school in Kenya as well. And yeah, so I've done Uganda, Kenya, then I went to the UK, and then even my schooling, I went to Australia for my first degree, and then I went back to the UK for my master's. In between there somewhere.
High school in the UK, then Australia.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Halfway across the world.
Yeah. And it was literally the reason I picked it. I never realized it. In hindsight now I get it.
Who were you running away from?
Yeah, I think I was running away from myself. But in hindsight now, I look at it and I think I was always just trying to find my place. And I thought that doing that meant going away from everything I knew. So when I picked Australia, it was because I felt like that was the farthest place I could go. And that was where I would have no one I knew, nobody that knew me, and maybe I could finally figure myself out. Like I could finally come into my own. I didn't know what that meant then, and I didn't know. Now I know, but I didn't know then that you can't do that in a place. You can't do that by running away. You actually have to sit with yourself. You have to meet yourself to find yourself.
You have to face whatever it is.
So I didn't know that.
And like for so many of us, it's our childhood.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say demons, but say.
I mean, it's a little bit.
Experiences and all of that.
Yeah. So childhood trauma is what we all say, but in a way, yeah, it's a bit demons, it's a bit darkness, Yeah.
All of that. So what was Australia like then? Did it give you something, any of that you were looking for?
Australia was lonely. Oh, Australia is beautiful. Let me not talk it down as a country. It was so beautiful. I met some great people there.
Yeah.
The people are really nice. It's a really nice place, but it was lonely. I was still, again, I still didn't know that I needed to figure myself out for myself. So I was still crashing and burning, and I was alone. I was so far. I had some family, but they weren't even in the same state. So I just, yeah, it was lonely, but it was also one of the first examples for me of resilience, I guess. Again, I've learned that now. Then I was just like, I just had to do it because I put my foot down. I went to Australia, so I'm gonna stick it out, and I did it. Now I'm like, that was resilience because I was very unhappy and I stuck it out and put my foot down and rebelled and gone.
Oh, so your parents weren't for
No, they weren't for
Australia.
Australia. No,
Okay.
they weren't for Australia. That was actually very interesting that I won that battle. But yeah, they weren't for Australia. But I went and I felt I had to prove that it was a good decision, that I did it. I did it, but it's okay. I was right.
But you know, that's part of growing up.
Yeah.
You make your choices, and at some point you're like, I fought so hard for this thing.
Yeah. At some
I
point,
have to make it
yeah,
work.
I have to make it work. So yeah, it was lonely, but I think it was the first example for me of resilience. It was also the first example for me of, you know what, if you drop me anywhere in this world, I think I'll be fine. Yeah. Because if I made it there, if I managed to come back at least in one piece, then I'll be fine.
Well, I'm thinking also the fact that you went to boarding school at 11 in another country, chances are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think for boarding school, it was very sheltered. I was in a very sheltered boarding school, I feel. Also, you're with a lot of other kids all the time. You're with not minders, but I mean, there's people around all the time. There's teachers, there's dorm parents. So I never felt alone there. I never felt like,
So it was a good boarding experience.
It was
That's
very
what you're
nice.
telling me.
I really liked my boarding experience a lot.
So you don't have childhood trauma from that?
I do not.
Like so many other people.
I really don't. I'm like, guys, I'm sorry, but I loved it.
Okay.
I liked it so much. So I didn't feel that. I actually felt, I think, because by that point, I was alone at home because my sister is a lot older than me, and everybody else who was in my household had since moved on. They were all older. Right. So I was kind of at home alone. My mom was really busy, and I never interacted with other people except like the people, like the helpers at home. So when I went to boarding school, for me, it was
home
exciting.
Was lonely then.
Yes. So when I went to boarding school, it was exciting. I was with other kids all the time, my age. I was just like, this is so much fun. So many activities. I was just like, oh, this is so much fun for me. So I loved it a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So after Australia, you said then back to the UK?
So after Australia, I had a bit of a gap. I think it was like was it a 2-year gap, I think, where I went to Switzerland for a while. I went there and I did 2 internships while I was there. My sister was there, so I just decided to move there for a bit and see what to do. And then I ended up in ended up in Rwanda as well in another internship and another first sort of starter job. And then I went back to the UK for my master's.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these internships, at that point, was it like, let me just try something out? Did you have an idea what it is you wanted to do?
No, I had no idea. The other thing that I've realized now is about myself that I have to fight is I'm a chronic people pleaser. So, or I have been. I'm changing that. I must not say I am. So I just knew that I was meant to do the things the way things were meant to be done. I finished school, I'm supposed to get a job.
Yeah.
Right? So it was, let's look around, let's try and find who can replace you with etc. And I just went. When they said we're gonna place you in a logistics company in Switzerland to do admin work, I was like, okay. No interest in logistics, no interest in admin.
Okay.
But I went because, hey, they got me the place and it's what I'm supposed to do. I finished uni, I should go and do an internship. Then the next one was in, they were selling healthcare machines or machinery or something like this. It was just random places. I did not enjoy the work. It wasn't what I wanted to do, but I also didn't know what I wanted. So I was
like, let me just see.
Yeah. I was like, I'm supposed to do this, and people have gone, talked to other people, and now these people are giving me a chance, so I must go and do this. I didn't take a minute to think, what do I want to do?
Right.
Like, am I trying to just continuously just go and go in life with no direction, with no thought of what makes me feel grounded or purposeful. I didn't take any of that time. I was just like, I'm just ticking off boxes as I'm supposed to, so that I don't disappoint anyone, and it's okay because that's what you're supposed to do.
So you don't disappoint anyone.
Mm-hmm.
As people pleasers, it's not very easy to say no.
No, it's impossible actually. I'm like, by the time you get round to saying no, honestly, I don't even know if you ever do. I think perhaps you find a way
Sometimes you
around
just avoid it.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
you just,
Exactly.
ghost somebody.
Exactly. You don't say
Which
that.
is not healthy.
It's not healthy because you should be able to set that boundary. You should be able to say no. This does not work with me, for me. I mean, it's if it's going to drain me, whatever it is. Sometimes it's even going to like physically affect you in a way, and you're still doing it. Why?
Yeah.
So yeah, people pleasing is it's the ghetto.
It really is.
It's the ghetto.
Have you had time to look back and see where you think it's coming from? Do you know where it might be coming from?
I think it goes back to my childhood still. I never wanted. I grew up seeing how stressed out my mom was, right? All the time. She was. I have both my mom and dad, but we grew up with my mom, and we grew up very much like with a single parent, right? So she was responsible for everything and everyone. And it wasn't just me and my sister, it was her younger siblings. It was, those kinds of family dynamics then. She had a lot on her plate and a very, very high stress job. And I saw how stressed she was. And I saw how the ones at home who were a bit rebellious and naughty were always in trouble, were always stressing her, were always getting beatings and all of these things. And I decided, you know what? I think the way to avoid all that is to just be the best possible child I can be. And that means I can never not do something for if I'm asked to do something, I must do it. If I'm asked to go somewhere, I must go there. If like whatever instructions come my way, I must say yes. And especially if they're from an adult, I must say yes. So that was my formative stage, which then just translated into adulthood, into my whole life, thinking I can't say no to people, because if I say no to people, I'm making them unhappy. That's just how I translated it, because most times, and I think that's what most people pleasers suffer from, because most times you're thinking if I say no, the other person is going to be unhappy. And yet it's almost never the case. Almost never. Like someone's asked you to help them do something, genuinely they're asking. You don't have to say yes. Like you can say no and they'll go ask somebody else and they won't even think about it twice.
Imagine.
But you are there like,
I bet you there's some people are like, really?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I'm like, but you're there like, if I say no to Crystal for asking me to help her bring that tea for her, then she won't have tea. Then she's going to think it's so simple. It's a small pot. Why can't you just do it for me? Like, how hard is it for you?
That is overthinking now.
It's like no, but it's just like it starts like that. People pleasing is you want the other person to be happy,
you're like,
but
but if I say no, oh my god, and then what are then they're going to think, and then and then you build this whole scenario where you could just say, I'm so sorry, but no, I can't do it.
Yeah, and I think they go hand in hand, the overthinking and people pleasing, because you end up overthinking it, you put yourself in a frenzy, and then you lead into anxiety, because now you're just a ball of nerves over everything. Even as you're doing the thing, you are just nervous, you're anxious, and then you're also a bit resentful, because most times you don't want to do that thing, and you don't.
But then you have
time
to cover that as well. So you have to pretend and put on your biggest smile.
So then you're now resentful, and then you're guilty because you're resenting the person, yet you said yes, they didn't make you. And then and then you feel shame because you're resentful, and then you're just sitting there with all of these negative thoughts doing nothing for yourself, all because you couldn't say no. Yeah.
My goodness. That is quite the cycle. It's quite the cycle.
It is.
But I think also sometimes it's part of being a woman.
Yeah.
Not to say I'm sure there are very many men who also have their challenges as people pleasers, but I think as girls, when you're being raised, you are told really from a young age, a good girl listens.
Yeah.
A good girl does what she's told. A good girl behaves a certain way. A good girl always has a smile on her face.
Yes,
So,
we don't
any of
have
that?
we don't have other emotions. We're not
Mhm.
supposed to.
No, no ugly
No,
emotions,
no, no, no. We
please.
don't. Nobody wants to see you sad.
Mm.
Nobody wants to see you angry. Nobody even wants to see you just kind of none of the emotions, just sitting there like I'm not feeling anything really. I'm just yeah, okay. I'm whatever.
Mhm.
I'm
Like,
somewhere in the middle.
what's wrong with you?
It's
What's
like what?
going
Yeah.
on?
So it is more women. It is more women have this burden on them than
Yeah,
men.
yeah.
There are some men, yes, of course, we can't negate that these are human emotions. Therefore, men also go through them. But it's mostly women, and mostly in our society in Africa because of how we've been brought up.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
what I was going to say. I think
yeah,
also it is probably one of the downsides of African
yeah.
parenting. It's not as bad as it used to be, but the
Mm.
whole concept of children are there to be seen and not
And not
heard.
heard.
And if you have any negative emotion, no one will entertain it.
Yes.
Mm.
No one will entertain it. And actually, they'll tell you to change it
Oh
or
yes.
to suppress it,
Mm.
which all become the downfall in adulthood because you shouldn't be suppressing your emotions.
True.
You
Now
should
we
be
know that's
yeah, now we know
unhealthy.
that yes, you should be feeling them. So as a child, you're being told stop it. Okay, no one wants to see you cry. That's enough.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be angry. You're a child.
Why are you crying? I'll give you a reason to
Yeah,
cry.
I'll give you a reason to cry. Or why are you angry? You're a child. What do you have to be angry about? And you're just
Mm.
like, what do you have to be sad about? Or all these things. And then it becomes, okay, so I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed to have this emotion. It's not accepted. It's not good, so I can't have it. So now I must always remember that when I start feeling it, nobody is interested in hearing about it. Nobody's interested in seeing it. I must deal with it by myself. And you know what? I don't want to. So I'm just going to pretend it doesn't exist. I'm just going to be like, you're not sad. You're not sad. That's enough. Snap out of it. Let's move on with life.
Okay.
And that sadness doesn't go away because you told it to go away. You have to acknowledge it's there and figure out what has brought it on. And then move through it peacefully because it is just another emotion.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. I think yeah.
many of us, our issue is from a young age, we're not taught how to deal with our emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not taught how to deal with our emotions or even accept that they're there and they're valid, basically. And it's okay. You should not. There's
It's
also that
okay
whole
to be angry. It's
yeah,
okay to be disappointed.
exactly.
It's okay to feel low.
Exactly. There's this whole thing where everyone assumes you're supposed to be happy all the time. Why?
Yeah.
It is not the only emotion you are created with. So why do you believe you should only be happy?
It's easier for everyone else.
It is, isn't it? But it's also false because you can't be happy all the time.
Yeah. True.
And I think I've even said this a few times now on our show, the Addicted and Filtered show on YouTube with Laura. What's up? But anyway, I've said it a few times where I'm saying the pursuit of happiness. You know that movie that came out so long ago with Will Smith, but that actual phrase, the pursuit of happiness, is what's making society sad. Because
yes,
if you're chasing happiness continuously, you will get it. Yeah, you'll find that thing that makes you happy. I love coffee so much. I love coffee. So I'll get my cup of coffee and I'll be happy just by getting my cup of coffee. But if I'm permanently telling myself I need to be happy, only happy, then when that happiness from coffee wears off, I'm looking for the next thing to make me happy. Yeah. And the next thing and the next thing. And when any other emotion tries to come in, I'm like, no. Like, beat it like the bad, I don't know what. Like, you're beating it like the thief who stole your bag. Honestly, don't beat thieves. But, you know.
I know.
But you're beating it down because you're like, no, I'm supposed to be happy. Now let me go find what's going to make me happy. Which is how, again, addiction happens as well. It happens from, yes, suppressing, from numbing, from suppressing, from life, from genetics. But there is that false sense of happiness with alcohol. At least let me speak from alcohol because I that's what is my drug of choice, as they say, or was. You know, you have that false sense of euphoria. So if you've beaten every other emotion and you're trying not to feel it, and then you drink and you feel that false sense of happiness, when it wears off, you're chasing that. You're literally chasing the dragon.
Yes.
You're like,
and because from there you do crash.
You crash. Now, for some people, that roller coaster, it gets a bit much. They get off. For an addict or an alcoholic, you don't. You just keep trying to go up that. You just keep trying to go up.
Yeah.
So as soon as you're down for even a second, you're like, I know what's going to make me feel better.
Let me
I
just have a
know.
drink.
Let me have a drink. And then
Yeah.
one doesn't work anymore. And then you'd have two, three, and then oh, it's the bottle, and then you know what, this doesn't work anymore either, so I'm switching to this, and then I must now do the cocktails because at least they mix the booze in that one, and then
So you chase the high.
you chase the high and you chase the next drink, and then it becomes the only thing that you're chasing and the only thing that you can think about, and you actually start being unable to live without it.
I think what you said about the pursuit of happiness is a conversation that we need to have seriously, because right now we also have a generation that's growing up and saying, if it does not serve me, I'm not doing it. If it does not make me happy, I'm not doing it. It sounds fine, but it is not a reflection of the real world
Exactly.
and life.
Yeah.
Because you cannot,
You can't
not
have, yeah.
even the person you love the most in the world will sometimes do something
And
you're mad at them,
Yes.
or you are hurt, or whatever.
Yes.
That is the cycle of life.
That is the cycle of life. And, you know, I know she's gone viral now, that Raquel, the therapist, or somebody on Instagram who's talking about capacity and being very real about, you know, we've oversensitized now.
Yes,
And
the issues that now have come with all the mental health
exactly.
talks.
And I love it because I like that she's saying it from a different angle of, guys, no one is saying that mental health doesn't exist and you should pay attention. No one is saying that it doesn't affect how you go through life, you know, and no one is saying that, yes, you should have moments where you decompress, you self-care, you check in with yourself, you set boundaries. All that is true and real. However, life is not a bed of roses.
No.
And it was never meant to be that. Like, who said it's supposed to be easy? Where was it said that it's supposed to be easy? It's just it's supposed to be received and accepted. So when if something doesn't make you happy and you're like, I'm not doing it, are you not doing it? She said this, and that therefore I'm saying this. I'm saying she said it, but it's true. Are you not doing it because it doesn't make you happy, because it's hard? We've also gotten to this point where we just want everything to be easy, and we are starting to associate ease with happiness.
Yes, you see some difficulty, and you're like, "No, I'm not going to do that.
That is going to make me.
It's going to stress me out.
Yeah, it's going to make me anxious.
It's going to,
so I can't do it. Have you tried? Try and fail at least, you know?
And the funny thing is, when you challenge yourself, when you push yourself into uncomfortable situations sometimes, you surprise yourself.
The thing is, people are forgetting balance. Life is balance. You must take the good with the bad and the bad with the good.
Exactly.
It can't be one or the other. And if it is one way or the other way, that's where you have problems.
True.
Because if you're also living in permanent misery,
yeah, we don't want that.
No one said it was meant to be that either. No one said life is going to be hard and hard and hard and hard and hard. What? No. It's going to be difficult sometimes, but there is good with the bad. And see that, acknowledge it, accept the bad too. See how to grow through it, not get stuck in it.
Yeah.
See what is making you stuck and work on that. But, yep.
So back to being a people pleaser, and then, you know, that cycle of emotions you go through. I'm sure that going into rehab has allowed you to get therapy and then understand yourself better.
Yeah.
When we were chatting earlier, you were saying you now know you have ADHD.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did that affect you?
So, first of all, when I was in rehab and I'm meeting, so we have 80% is therapy, but once a week it's with a psychiatrist.
Yes.
So this guy meets me first week, second week, third week. He goes, "Have you ever had an assessment done?" I'm like, "Assessment for what?" And he says, "Assessment for any mental health issues." And I'm like, "No." I was like, at some point somebody said I might have depression. I think I do, but I don't know. So he goes, "I think you have ADHD." And I'm like, "I don't even know what that is." Anyway, they do the assessment and I have it. And what it is basically, the full term is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
Yes.
It used to be just attention deficit disorder, ADD, and there are some chats in the psychology world to just take it back to that, because hyperactivity is getting very misunderstood. So it's not about just attention deficit. It's not that I am that child that you see climbing the walls, as they say, or I can't pay attention for very long, for like even a second, but it is all of that as well. So how that has affected me is I'm I'm suddenly mid-30s and realizing why my entire life has been my entire life. I'm like, I'm suddenly at this age, and all the things I used to say and self-describe as of I'm strange, don't worry about it. Oh, those are just my quirks. Oh, I'm just weird, you know. And I'm laughing and I'm being okay with it because I deep down I'm like, I'm so different. Why am I so different? This has all helped me understand myself.
Yeah.
So I have, you know,
What are some examples?
so some examples are I've always been I'm very creative, and I can't seem to stick to one thing. So I want to draw, I want to be a wedding planner, I want to play an instrument, I want to curate a strategy for something. I literally want to do so many things because my mind is always buzzing with ideas. I see something, like I can be sitting here looking around and everyone else is going, oh, this is so pretty, it's so green. And I'm thinking, you know, if you move that table there and you move this there, and maybe you brought some pot plants and it'll be such a nice space. And then I move on to something else, and then I'm thinking about how to do that as well. And I see a picture and I want to draw it. And also that moving, like my mind is constantly running. So it's the fact that I could almost pay attention to something I was interested in school to a point of obsession, to a point of I'm sitting at the front of the class staring at the teacher and getting mad if he stops talking, because I am so interested in what he's saying. I need him to finish it and I need everyone else to shut up. But then when I'm not interested,
oh my gosh,
yeah, it's really like weird.
Then you switch
but
off.
Then, yeah, so that's hyper focus. But if I'm not interested, I also have zero interest. Like I will zone out to a point where I might have gone on a trip in my head while you were talking. And I don't mean to do it, and sometimes I wouldn't even realize I'm doing it. I used to find it hard to be in conversations, and I'd have to do things like press my hands or constantly like do something like a pressure point, because
to try and keep yourself.
Yeah, because when people are having conversations with me, I used to realize that I've either gotten to the end of your conversation before you.
You already know where they're heading.
I already know where they're heading, and it's now kind of irritating me that you're still talking. Or I feel like, is this something I don't think, like, we don't need to talk about it. As in, like, it's so unimportant. So, but then I have to be there and I have to be present. And then interrupting people, and the hyper efficiency as well is really good, but it's what leads to burnout. So I feel like I can do it all, and usually I try to.
And you try to.
I try to. And it affects my sleep. So I was telling this guy in rehab how, you know, I'm not sleeping, because they needed him to recommend medication for me because I just wasn't sleeping. And I'm going, but you know, it's normal. I've had insomnia since I was 13. And he's looking at me like, that's not normal. And I was like, no, it is
but
for
that's
me.
Just, you know, I've always had it.
Yeah, I've always had insomnia, so it's fine. But because my mind, so I described my sleep pattern before I got on medication, which I'm on now, as the movie Inception. I'm being honest, like, so literally, yeah. So I'd fall asleep, and I know I'm asleep. But there's a version of me who knows is sleeping, but is inside my head awake. Then there's another version of me watching those two, but who is now inside what is like a bar-like scene or a restaurant-like scene, where I'm replaying scenes from my day, from 5 years ago, from 2 days ago, from 5 seconds ago, from a movie I watched last week. And all of those people are aware of each other, including the one that's supposedly asleep. That was my sleep pattern. Yeah. And then if one of those scenarios is something I'm supposed to do tomorrow, I wake up. Because suddenly that becomes a hyper focus, and I'm like,
you can't go back to sleep.
I need to do that now.
Yeah.
I need to send that email. I need to see if I've put together that PowerPoint. And then I'm awake. And then I'm burnt out all the time.
Yeah. Sleep is so important. God. I mean, I have a habit which I'm trying to work on, where I wake myself up. I I feel, you know, there's that piece where you know you're falling into that delicious deep sleep.
Yeah.
And it's like there's a bit of panic, and I'll wake myself up.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, there's nothing wrong. It's just sleep. Sleep is good.
Sleep is good.
Or something. I'm thinking of an event in the morning, and I just can't get my mind to calm down.
So and then I also used to wake up like I wake up and I'm on. That still happens because the medication
Ah.
has worn off by then.
And you used to say,
So-
I'm a morning person.
Yeah, I'm a morning person. I mean, I still say it because by morning it's worn off. So, my household knows. Like, I wake up and I'm like, okay, so, like, I'm ready to go. If I didn't have to go through the rigmarole of, like, showering and dressing up as humans have to before we leave for the morning, I probably could enter the office from the minute I get out of bed.
So, boop,
Yeah.
boom.
Yeah. Like, I'm ready. I'm ready to go for the day. The minute my eyes open.
That is so crazy.
Yeah.
So. Did this affect you? Because now you said now at your age, you're beginning to realize, oh, this is why I do this and this is why I do that. Did it affect you in school? Did it affect you like with exams and the
Yeah.
pressure
Yeah.
of
So,
studies?
yeah. So most of these mental health issues, I think Doreen said it last week,
Mm.
they have other like comorbidities. So you
Mm.
end up with depression, usually anxiety, OCD. Those are the main ones.
Mm.
So I have all that as well.
Okay.
But they affected me in both good and bad ways. So for exams, I was always a ball of nerves, but I couldn't bring myself to revise before literally like 2 days before any exam or the night before.
Last minute.
I can't do anything until I feel the fire under me. I can't.
And then you probably would say, oh, but I'm good with pressure.
And that is what I say. I'm like, I'm so good under pressure. It's beautiful. Because then I sit and I revise everything and then I go and I do very well. I did very well in school.
Yeah.
I was actually pretty bright. But it wasn't because I'm pretty sure if I put in a bit more effort and did it earlier, I probably would have been better at it.
Yeah.
But all that pressure. So I was always anxious because I've revised the night before for an exam and I'm not sure if I've read everything that I need to. And then I'm going into the exam. So I'm anxious about it. Then I do well and I come out of it and I go, I'm good under pressure. Very good under pressure. But it meant that I was also, like, in school it translated well for me.
Yeah.
Because in boarding school, I mean, I was a prefect. I was the dorm prefect. I was the
Must do it
star
all.
child. I was the star child. I was the one who was awake at 6. Made my bed like I'd been raised in military school because I have OCD. I literally, my bed has to have hospital corners. Otherwise, I can't walk away from it. And then everything has to be neat and organized. And I had to shower and I have to polish my shoes every day. So before, I had to get up early because I had to do all of that before lights on, which was at like 7:10. So they wake up at 7:10. Everyone else is dragging themselves out of bed. I'm sitting in the corridor polishing shoes. The old school way, where you have the shoe brush. They polish shoe, then they shine shoe. Yeah, the shine brush rather. Sorry, the brushes. So I was that child. Everything was in order, hair in order. Like I was obsessive. So it translated well for me in school, but it also meant I was always anxious. I was an anxious child. Like I think from my mom says I was an anxious baby. Like I was always anxious, and because of the perfectionism, I knew burnout before I started in the workspace. I was burned out as a child because I was again trying to do it all. I was always trying to be in every activity, every extracurricular, you say scripture union. I want to be in it. I want to lead it. So I'm going to work twice as hard to make sure I'm the head of it. You're like, oh, gospel band. I'm like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to be in it. I'm going to lead it. There's a dinner coming up. I'm going to plan it. I'm going to lead the committee. And then I'm going to do everything myself because I don't know how to delegate because I'm obsessive. I have OCD, so I need everything to be the way I want it to be. But then I'm a people pleaser who doesn't want to delegate and make people feel bad and like I'm being a boss. So then I'm doing...
What's the balance there?
There's no balance. I was burnt out as a child.
Oh my God. I mean, some people would say, oh yes, you were ambitious, you were driven, but...
And that's how it translated, but
Yeah.
that's not what it was. So now that I know this diagnosis, I understand that about myself. I understand what all of that meant.
Yeah.
And had I known earlier then, even my mom says now, oh my goodness, if we had known this as a child, because you were just like permanently anxious and doing everything and trying to be everything. And we didn't get it had we known. So, to whoever's listening and this sounds like your child, please, it's not again, like everything else I'm trying to do here, break the stigma, raise awareness.
Yeah.
It's not a sin. It's not shameful. The earlier you catch it, the better for that person.
Yes.
Because
Better for
then-
all of you, I
Yes,
feel.
for all of you as well, because then you're also the family dealing with that hyper anxious, just permanently exhausted child, and you don't understand why. Why isn't she like other
Like, wait,
children?
exactly.
Like the other children want to go swimming and out on the weekend, and she wants to do her homework because she's afraid Monday might come too soon on Friday evening. Like, like go and get that diagnosis, help the person.
Yeah.
But so and of course it's not supposed to be worn as a badge. Therefore, I'm saying, I get burnt out easily. So again, I'm the whole conversation we're having earlier of I'm not gonna try.
Yes.
I won't do too much because it might burn me out. No, know your limits as well.
Yeah.
So now it's just helped me know my limits. It has helped me slow down. I'm on medication for the hyperactivity of my mind. So I'm not trying to do everything at the same time all the time every day by myself. I can delegate now.
Yeah.
But all, and also just understanding all of that about myself, working through some of the issues that I still face because of it with my therapist, because I'm still in therapy actively, has helped me now. Has helped me so much now, and has helped me see that person that had all that and didn't know why, that was going through all that. Like I love her. I give her grace, forgive her, like send her love. Yeah, and it also helped me forgive myself a lot for a lot of things.
For a lot of things.
Yeah.
Did you feel like it's what you were saying, like, you were strange, you were different? Did you ever feel like there was something wrong with you?
Yeah. I felt like I was wrong. I didn't even feel like there's something wrong with me. I felt like there's something wrong with me, but I felt I was wrong. I went through my whole life feeling that God had made a mistake. I should have never been born, because I felt extremely wrong. I always felt like all those things that I thought about myself, all those things that I've said that made me so different, even when I was masking, even in school, even when I had friends, even I was always just, it was like a chameleon. I knew how to be, like I'd study people's, like how they are, how they interact, and I'm like, I'm gonna be like Crystal and do this, and then we'll all be friends, and that'll be great. Or I see that everybody likes her, so I'm gonna become her. But that wasn't me, and I never figured out why. Like I couldn't figure out why. Why am I the strange one? Why can't I? Why do I have to emulate Crystal? Why am I not Crystal? Why am I not like Crystal naturally? And then when I'll do things naturally that now are me, either I have so many thoughts in my head and I say them all at the same time, and someone's like, my goodness, you're so weird. Like who has a conversation like that? And then I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And then I hate myself for it, because now I feel like I made the other person uncomfortable. Or when I'm doing everything by myself and not delegating, and they're like, who are you trying to impress? And I'm like, who am I trying to impress? And so I hated myself. And I just went through life thinking, I don't think I was meant to be here. I think you made a mistake. I think I wasn't meant to be born, because I'm weird, I'm strange, I don't fit in. Nothing I do seems ever good enough. So why am I here? I feel like I'm taking some space I'm not meant to be taking. So I carried that with me, and of course it led to being depressed most of my life, and not dealing very well with it, not even understanding it initially when I was still younger. And the heavier the depression got, the more now the suicidal ideation came into play as well. Because then if you go through most of your life feeling you were never meant to be born, it's a mistake that you exist, you start thinking, well then, and it's sad that one goes with the other. It's sad that is where your mind leads you. It's very scary. Your mind is such a powerful tool. Like up here, we do not take enough time to understand that everything starts here. Everything starts here.
Yeah.
So if up here it's telling you lies, and it's telling you this narrative, you start to believe it, and it's so terrible.
I'm listening to that and I'm thinking about the African parenting, which is you're not supposed to show any kind of negative emotions. So you're busy hiding all this. Did you ever share it with anyone?
I shared it with my sister. We're very close.
Yeah.
So I shared a lot of my depression with her, a lot of my suicidal ideation with her. And in all honesty, for the most part, I'm still around, I think. Well, one, because God was like,
You're not going
you are
anywhere.
not a mistake. You're not going anywhere. Like, you can try as much as you want to tell me I made a mistake, but who are you? I got plans and you're staying.
Yeah.
So God. But also because of my sister.
Okay.
Here and there, a few therapists who also helped me, but I tried quite a lot of therapists, and I only ever found, like, including the one I'm with now, 3 that worked. Um, but yeah, because of her and because of being able to talk to her and tell her, I know that she's probably going to watch this and say, no, I didn't do enough. I didn't catch enough of it. And towards the end, yes, she didn't, but that's because it's not her, it wasn't her responsibility, which I tried to reinforce. It wasn't her
Mm.
responsibility, you know, and I was hiding a lot of it
You were
towards the end
actively
there.
hiding it
Yeah, I
as
was
well.
actively hiding it then. But she would, it helped to have somebody that I knew didn't judge me, and I could just tell when that, you know, when I was a bit too close to the edge of the cliff and I was walking a fine line, to be able
Mm.
to reach out and be like, I need you to just tell me I don't need to be there. I don't need to be on that line. I don't need to go over it. And she really helped me with that. Yeah. So it's I'm very lucky that I have her. And yeah. Thank you, Sheila.
We love you, Sheila.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, alcohol addiction, when did it start? Are you able to see where it
Mm,
started?
I think, well, one, I think I was always on the cycle, but I
Mm.
think it heavy started in COVID lockdown.
Oh,
Mm.
okay.
I think
So,
lockdown,
but you before that you would drink,
I
yes?
would drink. I was a problematic drinker, which is basically, so
Oh,
for an alcoholic, for someone with addictive genes, you, becoming a problematic drinker is just, you're going to become a problematic drinker, and then you're going to become an addict, right?
okay.
You're going to become an
So
alcoholic.
you wouldn't drink every day?
I would. That's a problematic part of it.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
So I
Because
was
I
still,
thought maybe because there's some people they don't drink every day, but
yeah,
when they do drink, they can't stop.
yeah.
Mm.
So I was already drinking pretty much almost every day.
Mm.
And it had been going on, I think, since maybe 2016. I'm drinking every day.
And
Not
this is at
maybe,
home?
no, not at home, out. So it
Okay.
was very justifiable. So very after work drinks,
Ah.
hanging out drinks,
Mm.
decompressing drinks,
A big
traffic
part of our
drinks.
culture here.
Yeah,
Eh? Mm-hmm.
you know, traffic drinks for a reason.
Mm.
But it wasn't necessary for me to be drinking. There were
Yeah.
older people there were some people who I would be hanging out with continuously, even to date, who would be on tea the entire
Mm-hmm.
time. So
Mm-hmm.
it was not necessary. I wanted to. Um, but then in COVID, in lockdown, it went from after work, which justified, to all the time because it was okay. We were in lockdown. We were
Yeah.
locked down. And I think it became a problem for a lot of people because
Oh yeah.
alcohol just became, you know, the coping mechanism
Yeah.
for most people.
That's what you do with your day. I have a
Exactly.
friend who said after, I think a month and a half, she went into her pantry and she saw all the wine bottles and she was like, "Oh my God, what the hell is going on?"
Yeah.
Mhm.
So now people who don't have those genes and who are not predisposed, they got to that point, they stopped. Some even, okay, they went through the whole lockdown and were drinking heavily, but after they were like, nah, nah, we gotta reset.
Yeah.
Now for me, after it became normal to drink every day, and also shortly after COVID and the lockdown ended, a lot of extremely big traumatic events happened in my life. So I was already on that way to becoming a full blown active addict, right? Active alcoholic. But and it was okay. It was okay in COVID because we were doing it all the time. But where I could have maybe stopped myself, maybe caught it and maybe say this is not working. Then now life entered the equation, which
Mm-hmm.
again life is life, but when your coping mechanism and your brain, your pathology is telling you, ooh, that booze is the answer,
Yeah.
when it happens, that's where you go to. So I lost my cousin who was literally my brother in a freak accident.
Mm.
And a month after I had one, I remember I told you I'd had suicidal ideation my whole life, right? So him dying affected me in such like life shattering way. And I don't think I will ever fully get over it. But I'm better at coping with it now. But it was two pronged because he died, yes, that was
Mm-hmm.
grief, but also I felt he deserved to be here. Where I had felt my whole life I didn't, I felt he did. So I wasn't in the car with him, I wasn't even in the same city, but I had survivor's guilt for some reason. It was so strange. And that's something that I didn't even realize until much later, that I was dealing with his death so badly because I felt that why on earth would you take this person who deserves so much to live, who everybody wants to live, when I had the same similar accident a month ago and I survived it? What is the purpose of that? So then I went through all of that, and I didn't even understand what was happening, so I wasn't dealing with it. And then, of course, life is continuing to happen. So you're in difficult jobs, you're dealing with stress and pressure. And then a very long term relationship ended, and it ended in not a good way, not a good place. And I then had to add that onto everything, onto what was already happening, which I wasn't dealing with, which was I wasn't acknowledging. And then I didn't deal with that either.
Okay.
I didn't even acknowledge it. I thought, you know what, it's okay. This is a good thing that this has happened, so I'm going to be happy about it.
So
But
you didn't even allow yourself to grieve?
I didn't, because I felt that I should be happy that it had happened, because it had gotten to not a great place, I think, for me. And I was like, so then I've decided to end it, and therefore, and I did, therefore I should be proud of myself and happy, and everybody else is happy, so I should be happy. I'm not going to allow myself to grieve.
Yeah.
How do you not grieve for a 3-year relationship, you know? So I didn't deal with that.
Because even though there were bad times, there were
Yeah.
always good times.
Yeah. So
too.
I didn't deal with that. I added that onto everything else. Now, from COVID, that was like literally 2020, I'm in the problematic drinking. 2021, all of this stuff happens. 2022, I'm not grieving my relationship, which ended as well, end of 2021. And that 2022, I just started getting more and more dependent on the alcohol, more and more afraid to do anything without a drink, more and more like I just started feeling nervous and anxious all the time if I didn't have a drink first. And so I'm like, okay, so then it became worse, and I'm now not drinking outdoors. I'm now isolating. I'm now inside the house, and I'm drinking alone, because surely if no one can see me, it's not happening. um, and then 2023 was a year where I was the most efficient human being in the world. I got so much done. Work wise, I was doing 3 jobs, I think, and I wasn't sleeping. I got to a point where my insomnia was full blown because of alcohol, but also because my mind was just a mess.
Okay. And you were keeping yourself distracted.
And I was keeping myself distracted with everything I had to do all the time, and I was adding more and adding more. I mean, I was taking on things I didn't have to take on. I was the person who, you're sitting here struggling with maybe your own concept note. I have 6, and I'm like, give me yours. And I'm going to do all of them today, and I'm going to hand them in. Why? No reason. But I needed to distract. And then I just ended up in the darkest place I've ever been in my life. I also ended up in the most broken place I've ever been in my life. I was at my heaviest. I was unhealthy. I was in the hospital every week for somebody who was never in the hospital all that much. I wasn't eating right. I had stopped caring what my hair looked like, what my nails looked like, what I looked like. I'm a person who takes pride in how they dress. I didn't care what I looked like. It took every single fiber of my being to dress appropriately for work. There were days when I wished I could just show up in a bathrobe, literally. I mean, I became so dependent on it. I had to have a drink before I got into the shower, because facing the day
in the morning, out of bed,
yes, facing the day felt impossible if I didn't drink first. So as the year went on in 2023, I just got worse and worse and worse, and deeper into my darkness. And 2023 was, I've shared that, you know, my defining moment for rehab. Even if I started a conversation with the director of where I went 5 months prior, was when in December, this is gonna shock you, but in December, shortly after seeing you, after that event, I decided, like, that I did that event, and I did it with everything I could master to make it as successful as it was, because that was gonna be what I went out on. I had already made up my mind. So yeah, so I went that way. I tried, and like I said, I put everything in order. OCD, right? Cleaned the house. It was spotless. Tidied everything. Went to sleep thinking, you know, that this is it.
And you had prepared.
I had prepared. I had notes on the dining table waiting for my family. Everything. And then I woke up the next day.
It didn't work.
No. And I thought, okay, this is a sign. God is saying, go get help. So I
Did
called the
anyone
guy.
know at that point?
No,
Okay.
nobody knew. So I called the guy of the place, and I literally, as I woke up, and I called him and I said, how soon can I come? I need to come, and I need to come now, because I told him exactly what had happened. And he said, okay, just give me a few hours. I'm going to get back to you. But call somebody. Don't be alone. I didn't. Martin knows this, but I didn't. I didn't call anyone because I was so ashamed, and I didn't. But what I did, I said packing to leave. And then he called me back and he said, we will have a room and everything set up for you in 2 weeks. So again, blessed, very blessed and privileged that I could go away for this. I went to India. So can you make everything happen by then? I already had my visa because I was intending to go. So I'd gotten to the point where I knew I needed help, and I knew I wanted to go to India because I'd been talking to this guy and they're in India.
So
So I had
you'd
my
kind
visa.
of been
I'd been trying
taking
to get
steps.
myself there. I knew I couldn't go on the way I was. I really knew that. And it's sad that again, this thing up here decided to convince me that I couldn't go on the way I was and try the other way instead of fully committing to rehab. But like I said, God was like, you play girl. Mm-mm. So, so I called him and he said 2 weeks. I said, yeah, I can make that happen. I really like. I'd like. I've said it 3 times now, so he'll probably hear. But I'd really like to thank John, my brother-in-law, for making my ticket happen immediately and giving that to me. Because I called him and I said I need a ticket to India, and he knew why. So he said, "Say less." Yeah. So then that's when I told Sheila, and that's when I told
Okay.
my mom, and I said I'm going to rehab. I've organized everything. No, none of you need to do anything except they already knew that I'd need help with the payments. Again, thank you
Yes.
again for my family. But this is when I'm going, and that's what's happening. So on December 18th, I got on a flight to India by myself to a country I've never been to, and landed in India.
Some people might ask, why India though?
So it's because the guy who had gotten in touch with the director of the place I went to, Samarpan, it's called Samarpan. Yeah. So he had helped my cousin, but in Thailand very many years ago.
Okay.
So when I got in touch with him, because my aunt still had his number and helped and gave it to me, he told me that, oh, by the way, I'm not in Thailand anymore. I'm in India.
Okay.
So is that still okay? So that's where I went, and that's why I went there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
For many, I feel like we all know so many functional or functioning alcoholics in life. Do you feel like, because by the time you had to have a drink before you went to work, did the people you worked with, were they able to see it? Did you ever feel you got to points where you lost control? Were they those situations as well?
Yeah, I think some of the people at my workplace, if not all, I mean, I don't know, the ones who have since reached out and told me, or even just told me even then that they think I was going through something, am I okay? So it was being noticeable. So by the time you reach that point, you, the stubborn addict, thinks no one is noticing.
So you
The people
felt-
closest to you
Yeah.
are noticing.
They see
They are
it.
noticing, they're seeing it, and they're worried, but sometimes they don't know how to tell you. Some workplaces have policies in place that make it so that, a safe person that they will identify can be someone they think is your friend on the team, will encourage you
talk
to
to
go to rehab, and the company will pay. But that's not what was there in my place. But some of the people who had become close friends did reach out. Even then, have reached out since, and everything. So they were noticing, because there were times when, yeah, I was definitely out of it and they could tell. There were times when what I was struggling with was the withdrawal. I was trying to be sober, and it was misunderstood because I was jittery and I was all over the place. Because sometimes I would know that I can't be drunk
Okay.
at a function.
So
So
you're
like
like,
the
"I'm not gonna
function
drink,
that
I'm not gonna drink."
So like the function that you did, the one I was telling you about, I had to be sober for that, but I was in serious withdrawal the whole time. I was such an anxious mess. I was so tired. I hadn't slept for like 4 days before that event, just trying to make everything perfect. I had 2 events going at the same time.
I remember.
And I needed to be sober for that, but that was somebody who'd been drinking as much as I had, going 4 days without booze, I was literally a mess. So that was misunderstood by some people, and they thought that I was drunk because it presents the same way.
Yeah.
You're literally, you're like, hi, you're here, you're there, because you're just like this,
Yeah.
and no one can understand it. And it's unfortunate because what you need to calm that, apart from getting help, is in that moment you're like, I just need a drink, and unfortunately it's what comes in, but it's not the right thing. But also, I was functioning. Yes, I was a high functioning I was a high functioning person.
Yeah.
But there is actually nothing like a high functioning addict, because by that point, like we've just talked about, when people are already noticing, even if I was doing the most, I wasn't functioning anymore, because that's also not functioning. Having two full-blown events, large scale, happening at the same time, and trying to handle everything yourself, not sleeping for 4 days, barely eating, is not functioning. You're maybe existing at best, but you're not functioning.
I like that. Existing.
Yeah.
I'm alive. I'm here.
I'm here. I'm showing up. I'm doing what I need to get done, but you're not functioning.
You referred to Doreen's interview because we did talk a lot about mental health, and that got me thinking, because she talked about her challenges with weight.
Yeah.
And you said at that point you were at your heaviest.
Yeah.
And I know that you'd had quite a few challenges.
Yeah.
Putting on a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And struggling with your weight.
Yeah.
Do you feel that also made things worse? Was it a relationship that went hand in hand?
Yeah.
How did you deal with it? Because you have lost humongous amount of weight.
Yeah. So I mean, first of all, well, yeah. So let me answer the first part. It impacted. It went hand in hand because alcohol has a lot of calories.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yes.
So when you're consuming it at those amounts, you're going to put on weight.
Yeah.
And also, when you are trying to hide it, you're mixing it with literally the worst things in the world. So you're mixing it with a lot of sodas, a lot of high sugar drinks, because you're trying to mask it, right? So that's also bad. But then you're also eating badly, because then you're eating, things that you think are going to help, like fried chicken and all of these heavy foods and easy foods. So I put on a lot of weight. But then also, the more you put on weight, the more people are now starting to tell you, hey, you're getting fat. Where are you going? Do you have a mirror in your house? Like, and unfortunately, my poor mother,
some aunties who,
you know what I'm saying?
Who really not the smallest, but
still tell you.
Every time I'd put on what's happening? What's happening?
Those comments. So of course, I already didn't. I hated myself so much. I've learned to love myself in the last year and a bit.
Okay.
I have spent my whole life hating myself, because I was like, I was one of those people who you'd say, you look so nice. Yeah. And I smile and I say, thank you. And I walk away thinking, why is that chick lying to me? I'm like, she's not a nice person. Now the ones who I think I know are nice, like you telling me I look nice, I'll be like, Crystal's just so nice. Like, she had to just make me feel better. I probably looked sad, so she had to tell me I looked nice. It's so nice. She's so nice. Oh, I love her. The compliment, shui. Nowhere. It has entered nothing. So I hated myself, and I was just like, so the more people told me I'm putting on weight, the more I saw myself. Of course, I had a mirror in my house for those who were asking me. But I hated myself more. So I'm like, drown it. And then, one goes with the other. And my whole life, by the way, even before the active addiction, even before alcohol was what I used to numb, I was using food. You're telling me I put on weight, I go and eat double what I had eaten yesterday.
Food is an addiction of its own.
Yes, it is actually. So then when I went into rehab, now a lot of people enter when they're very skinny, so they have to work on actually getting them healthy. I entered very heavy, so they had to work on getting me healthy, but now by losing weight. Okay. So by the time I came back from rehab, I'd actually already lost 8 kilos. Because they put me on a very strict diet, and I had to work out more than everybody else. Okay. But not too heavy, because exercise is also an addiction. So they're not trying to get you to I've forgotten the word, but they don't want you to now get another addiction while you're in rehab, because that's not the purpose.
To simply switch to something else.
So it was monitored, but done in a way where I came back when I'd already lost 8 kilos. But they gave me the tools to help me continue that journey. And honestly, cutting out booze and then bad food is pretty much like half of it, if not 80% of it. Yeah. But also, like, now I've started, because of course Then I get comfortable. So I did intermittent fasting. It worked it worked very well as well. But then I realized that now I've gone a bit extreme. I'm not eating. I'm bad with food. So now I've started sort of trying to get back into healthy eating. A program which I saw in Prim's stories.
Yeah.
Nyonyozi Prim stories with a lady called Coach Debbie. So she has this challenge, March challenge that I've joined. And for me, it's mostly so that I can get into good habits, good working
Yeah.
out habits and good eating habits.
And have a healthy relationship
with
food.
food and with
Because I
exercise.
think a lot of people, a lot of women, men
Yeah.
struggle with that.
Yeah. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm really excited for it because I feel now that's where I need to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I feel like a lot of addicts also are scared of going to rehab. You know, it's not so much they don't think they have a problem. Some of them know very well they have a problem, but they're just terrified of the whole experience. Like, what's going to happen? What are people going to say? I don't want anyone to know. Did you go through the cycle of no one needs to know about this?
Yes. Yes. That is such a common one because of the shame attached to it. The shame attached to addiction and the shame attached to getting help for it. It's so sad. Like, even when you reach the point where you're getting help for this thing that is already shameful, there's shame. So yes, I went in with the same shame, guys. I didn't want anyone to know. It's why I'm saying I'm so blessed and so lucky that I could even go somewhere outside of Uganda. So nobody knew what I was going for, but I still didn't want anyone to know even when I came back. Even after I had gone through the whole process of starting to learn better habits and appreciate myself, appreciate the resilience and the strength it took for me to pick myself up and go to rehab, I was still ashamed. I still didn't want. And it was because, and I think it's because, you see, it starts with what you're fighting with before you go to the rehab.
Okay.
So if addiction is already being viewed as the dirty, dirty sin, the thing that you're literally like crucifying you on a cross, this thing that you have done to yourself, you are, you've spoilt yourself, you're a failure, you're not serious, you're making your family suffer. By the time all that is already true, when I go to get help for it, and then people who go to rehab, they're telling you, that one completely lost it, and they even had to put him in a place. They didn't know what to do. They'd given up. That person it was a written off case, so that they've just put them there. So it's viewed as this like, almost like I don't know, like a written off thing. Like they've written off the person. You've gone to that place. They've given
up on you.
You've gone to
lost
that
cause.
Exactly. You've gone to that place where lost causes go. Yet it's not. It's not that. One, addiction. Yes, you are responsible for your actions as an adult. Okay? Nobody put that drink in your hand. Nobody put that drug in you, or cigarette, or whatever you're dealing with. But it is also a disease. So you're fighting it on a real pathological and physical level. You are not choosing to be that. You didn't choose to become that. When they're saying you must have chosen, it's your choice. No, you're not choosing to be that. No one wakes up and says, I want to be so dependent on alcohol I can barely get out of bed. Seriously? No one chooses that. And you're not a failure because you are struggling with something real. Again, I watched the episode with Doreen. If somebody can struggle with treating the heart, with treating a sick leg, and you're seeing them and you're trying to help them and you're giving them empathy and sympathy, you don't think that they're struggling with that same disease of addiction? It's a struggle. They're struggling with it. And they're not doing it to you as a family. In fact, they're becoming more and more.
Isn't that our thing, African? Why are you doing this to us?
Yes.
Why are you ashaming
in fact,
us?
the more that person, the more they're seeing what they're doing to you, what this disease is doing to the family, because of course, yes, you're together in it.
Yes.
The more they're drinking or using that thing, whatever they're using, because they're ashamed, they're guilty, they don't want to be doing this to you. So rehab is that thing that you should view as
it's a good thing.
A good thing, as the hospital that this disease needs to be treated in. It is not the first thing. It is usually the last thing, but it does not need to be seen as a written off thing where lost causes go. It's just another version of a hospital. that treats this disease.
So, isn't it interesting that you're coming from that? And many families were like, this is the secret, cover it up, don't tell anyone. And you're like, I want to talk about this. In
Mhm.
fact,
Mm-hmm.
hey,
Mhm.
I want a podcast. I
Mhm.
want a show where
Mhm.
I can talk about this, where we can talk about this,
Mhm.
especially since we normally hear about it from the perspective of men.
Yeah.
Not many women are
Yes.
comfortable enough coming to talk
Yeah.
about addiction.
Yeah. And that's actually why me and Laura started our podcast. It was because women don't talk about addiction because, again, girls are brought up to believe we're supposed to be able to do it all, be all, and never complain and never break. So when something bad happens, your go-to is to hide.
Yeah.
And it's not right. So we're not getting enough women talking about it. We're not getting enough women who are getting help for it because it's just being hidden and swept under the carpet. Where the statistics, I think in the episode with Janet, we talked about it, Janet Safe Places, where she said if we really had correct statistics, women and men are at par. If not, women might even be more. Because women
Wow.
are dealing with a lot naturally. We're
Mm.
dealing with a lot. We're dealing with all the expectations society has on us, all the expectations we have on ourselves as well. But then we're always the ones who are also dealing with a little bit more because in the workplace, you're trying to be a little bit better than your male colleague because you're a woman and they expect you to be less. In the home, you're being a little bit more because you're the homemaker. You're expected to be that. In everything that you're doing a little bit more. But that means that your stresses and your pressures are that much more. Now, when everything cracks and that's what you're using to cope, you're now thinking, I have to hide that too. Because I should never have cracked in the first place.
Yes.
So then it's swept under the rug. And then, of course, now the husband is saying, how do I know? How can the world know my wife is in rehab? Wanange? No, 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 no. How can my family find out I married this woman who is like this? Then the family, if you're not married and it's your family, they're saying, how can this be my girl? How can this be my girl? My girl can't be like this. What are they going to say? How did I raise her? When it's a boy, they're saying, oh my God, when the boy went and got spoiled and now we have to get him help. But the girl, how did I raise her? How are they going to take it? So swept under the rug. So for me and Laura, we sat and we said, one, we want to be women who have gone through this, talking about it and saying, guys, it's real. A lot of women are going through it. It's not shameful. Start talking about it so that you break that stigma, you break that shame, get these people help.
Yeah.
Because we recover, like as much as it's scary to talk about the addiction part, hey, hello, we recover, you know? Like you can come out on the other side. And once you are healing, once you are doing well for you, again, because women carry a lot more, guess how much more you can do if you're okay? And how much more they can do for you as a family.
Hey, I'm going to stop you right there.
I mean,
not too much.
No,
though,
not too much, but I'm just saying, like, you show up better,
Yeah,
you
you
know?
show up
Okay,
better.
don't come at the recovered women and say, is it said you can do more now?
You can do
more.
everything, in fact.
No, that's a recipe for relapse, and the statistics are high on that. But you can show up better for yourself and for your loved ones once you get the help to deal with these things. So it's swept under the rug. It's not talked about. I know a lot of family members who have reached out, aunties, who have reached out and said, we're so proud of you, where I was expecting, what are you doing?
Because I'm sure that was something you were like...
I sat my mom down and said, are you okay with this? She said, I'm okay with this. I said, then I don't care about anybody else. But I was still expecting the calls.
Yes,
But most calls and messages have been positive. And in all honesty, I wanted to do it when I know that, yes, most people are going to look at me and think, how are you saying this with all the family and everything? And I want them to think, if she can talk about this publicly, I can get help even privately. You know, because I'm not saying come out and all of you start singing about it. I'm not pressuring anyone to talk about it. When you're ready, I'm 14 months 14 months sober, going into 15. It took me a very long time to start talking about any of this.
Yeah.
I didn't talk about it for a while. I wasn't ready. When you're ready, you talk about it. If ever, if not, it's fine.
Yeah.
But I want you to hear me publicly say all these things and think, I know a person, I'm gonna try and help them. I want the person who's going through it to think, if she can do it this publicly, I can do it privately. I can
Yeah.
start the process. And then the one who is maybe thinking they're on the way to addiction can think, okay, I don't gotta end up there.
Yeah.
You know, you can go and
Maybe I
get
can do
help.
something
Yeah,
about
you can
it.
get help. There's a lot of help out there, even in Uganda, guys. And there's a
That's
lot
the
of
thing,
research.
right? We actually do have a lot
Yeah.
of support
We
that
do.
people don't know, I
Yeah.
guess.
We do. And it's just a Google search. You search for meetings online, you will find them. You search for rehabilitation centers in Uganda, you will find them. There's a lot of help in Uganda. There's a lot of help globally. This is a disease that does not discriminate. So my story is the same story as somebody in a room in Iceland. I swear, it's that. It is
Iceland.
that similar. It is that non-discriminatory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, for someone who's watching, again, the YouTube show, because these are conversations that need to
Yes.
be heard.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So our YouTube show is called The Addiction Unfiltered Show, and we have an Instagram page and a TikTok page, and a X page. I'm showing my age.
Hey,
Sorry.
it's still Twitter.
Yeah, showing my age, but it's The Addiction Unfiltered Show.
The
One word.
Addiction Unfiltered show.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have a few episodes up already, so please do tune in. I co-host it with Laura Kagame, and yeah, two women just trying to demystify addiction.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you for coming.
Thank
on
you
the
for having
show.
me. It's been so
Oh,
nice. I've
yes.
enjoyed myself.
Oh, I'm glad you have.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of you.
Thank
Proud
you.
of the journey you're on.
Thank you.
And I hope that this can help so many other people.
If it helps even one, praise be.
Right?
Yeah.
Job done.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Thank you.